Aloha! How's it? Today we're talking all about how you nail your LinkedIn profile headline so that you can grow your business and scale your impact as an expert. So, more on that in a minute. It's all about your headline this week. So, how was your weekend? It was my son Dougie. It was his sixth birthday. So, we had some light and fun festivities last week to celebrate. I also am a new auntie with one of my brothers. He's based in Egypt. So he had his first child and a little baby boy named Ayub. I think I said it correctly. So lots of birthday celebrations all around. We also got in some surfing. So I'm practicing a technique called rail to rail. So basically, the rail of a surfboard is like the edge. So if you look at the edge, that's the rail. And I'm trying to go off center on my board to see what happens. I'm used to like going straight and planing across. And now I'm trying to like lean a little bit more, try a few mini maneuvers and see what happens. So a lot of times I still fall off when I attempt, but just cueing myself on thinking rail to rail every time I take a wave is a ton of fun. And I think that's what's really fun about surfing is there's always something to learn. Even if you do become a pro or you do compete at some level, it's still always a process. There's always something that you could work on. So, for me as a beginner, rail to rail, that's what I'm working on this week. And now it is time for Mondays with Mindy. This is a weekly show on Monday afternoons if you're based in the US, where I talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles, what I call the three P's of LinkedIn. So, a little teaser for those of you who love podcasts like me. My podcast, The Mango Effect, is launching in just a few short weeks on April 4th. So the trailer episode is up now. If you want to check it out, it's also on Apple Podcast and everywhere, of course. So go ahead and subscribe so you'll know when the episodes drop. I'm dropping like 10 on April 4th, so you can kind of binge listen on opening day. And just so you know, it's not at all the same content that I share in these live streams. It's not much about LinkedIn at all, but it's more of like one of my passion projects where we're going to talk about creating our lifestyles by design, some pretty juicy topics relating to entrepreneurship, health, well being, surfing, relationships, building a business or career with intention. So, a lot of really good, fun topics. And I will be having guests. So, if you know somebody that you think would be a good fit, just reach out and let me know. So, I'm starting to post some teaser snippets on Instagram at Mango Effect Podcast if you want to check them out. All right. So, do you have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer? Be sure to like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, to give it some social love. Leave your questions below, and I will answer them after the show or on a future episode of Mondays with Mindy. Now, let's jump into today's topic. Why is it so critical that you nail your headline on LinkedIn? Do you feel like you're a go to expert, but nobody can find you? So, last week we talked about how to start attracting the right type of attention on LinkedIn. And that really leads us to today, where we are going to talk about your headline and how you can start attracting the right people to your profile. And it does start with your headline. You want more opportunities, your headline really has to match and has to pull people in. So, LinkedIn headlines are one of the most important sections of your entire LinkedIn profile. And the best part is they are short. They are not long. It is not the about section where I get cringes when people are like, oh, we have to do the about section. It is not like that. It is short. You have 220 characters max to play with. And if you nail the headline, you are going to see a lot more results than somebody who may have the same credentials, the same background, may have even better services, but they haven't nailed their headline. So even if your LinkedIn profile, if you feel like the rest of it is really good, but if your headline is just a little bit off, I mean, just a little bit off, your entire LinkedIn strategy can fall flat. And I have seen it happen in real life. And I don't even work with clients if they won't let me tweak their headline because that is critical to the success of my programs. And so your headline has to be dialed. I don't have enough LinkedIn magic potion to make up for a poor headline. So if you're looking at LinkedIn, you're like, Mindy, I'm brand new to LinkedIn. I don't know where to start. Or if you're looking at LinkedIn thinking, Mindy, I've been here a while. I've had some pretty good results, but I feel like something is kind of missing, or maybe it's time for a refresh. We're going to talk about that headline right now. So no matter how good your messaging is, no matter how great your content is, no matter if you have the best headshot in the world, whether you have a logo for your company or not, whether you have the best messaging on the planet, your headline is the linchpin that makes it all work. So, for those of my non marketing experts out there, raise your hands. I see you. Yes, yes. Taglines, hooks, and elevator pitches can feel like a bit trite or like, come on, Mindy, do we really have to talk about this again? Sometimes it even feels a little bit unimportant because we feel like, it's just marketing jargon. Does anyone even care what's really in the headline? Well, most of your customers and clients are humans. At least I think they are. I hope you don't have bots buying from you at this point. So we respond to short snippets of words and phrases that give us like what I call like the TLDR, if you're like hip, I guess, version of ourselves as experts. So when you're thinking of your headline, think, okay, TLDR, which means if you don't know what that means too long, don't read. So it's like if you are trying to figure out how to make a snapshot for people to really digest what you are, who you are, what you do, how you help people, the problems that you solve. That's what your headline is meant to do. So, our goal as experts is to make it as easy as possible for our target audience to figure out who we are, what we are doing, using words that make sense to them. All right. In a nutshell, that's what it's about. So, to do that effectively, you're going to need to start thinking differently about your headline. So we got to stop cutting corners or copying a competitor's headline. I've seen people do that too because you're unsure what to do here. So you really want to make your tagline as unique yet understandable as you are so that your people can figure out in a maximum of 2 to 3 seconds whether or not you're a person of interest to them. So 2 to 3 seconds is what people will give you as a complete stranger. Are you going to hook them or are they just going to go, okay, it's kind of boring. Moving on. Nailing your headline is really going to unlock other possibilities for you on LinkedIn when you know exactly what needs fixing and how to sprinkle in a bit of your personality here. So that's what we're getting into today. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, aloha. My name is Mindy Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindy Rosser Marketing, and I have a group program called the LinkedIn Accelerator for those who want to go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn with their profile and their network. So the next cohort, stay tuned, it's opening for enrollment in early April, right around the corner. So get on the wait list if you want to be the first notified. I will share that link at the end of this live. Get on the wait list, just add your name there. You'll be the first to know when the doors open. So I help professionals who feel they are the best kept secret in their industry to become that go-to visible expert in their niche so they can get that next opportunity, grow their business, and scale their impact all using LinkedIn. So in this live, we are talking about your LinkedIn headline and why it is causing you to miss those perfect fit opportunities on LinkedIn, and how you can actually nail your headline with a surefire formula so that you can get more clients and business opportunities. We're all in it to win it, right? So let's go ahead and do this. Reminder to go ahead and like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, to give it some social love. All right, so every week, it doesn't fail. Every week I do these things that I call LinkedIn profile reviews. And basically they're like a 3 to 5 minute, I try to say 90 seconds, but I always go long. So it's usually 3 to 5 minutes where I look at someone's profile and I analyze every single section on their profile and give them feedback on, is this a good profile? Is this not? What should I fix? Am I actually doing what I want to do with my profile? Am I trying to get leads? Am I trying to build my personal brand? What am I trying to accomplish here? So I review a lot of these profiles. I've got like hundreds in a video vault. And my goal is to really help people land their next opportunity, whether that's to get their job, book more clients, attract more inbound leads, or build their personal brand with their profile. So, one of the most common mistakes that I see with that profile opening is what I call keyword stuffing the headline. So, basically, that is to get all the right keywords in that headline for search purposes. So, the theory goes like this: create a list of keywords that your ideal audience or market would be searching for on LinkedIn, and then mash them all together in your headline to be sure you're one of the first people to show up at the top of that search. I've even seen people stuff these keywords into their first and last name area, which looks really desperate to any potential connection. So, what's the problem here? Like, Mindy, isn't that a good idea? Don't I want a keyword stuff? Especially, I should put it in my name area. That'll really get optimized for search. The problem is that those keywords only go so far. So, most other experts in your industry are probably very likely doing the exact same thing as you with keyword stuffing the headlines, which means it's not helping you. That means they're all popping to the top just like you're all popping to the top. So, what's going to set you apart? So, you may be showing up somewhere in a long list of search terms, but are you actually showing up at the top? And does that even guarantee that that person is going to feel intrigued by your headline and click? Probably not, unless your keywords are not very popular, which defeats the purpose. Okay. So instead of trying to stuff all of those keywords in your headline, there's something that I teach inside the LinkedIn Accelerator program where you select a max of 2 to 3 keywords or phrases and then figure out how to weave them naturally into your headline area. So when someone reads your headline, it should roll off their tongue and make complete sense to them if they're your target audience. It doesn't have to make sense to people outside your market, but it really should it should be crystal clear in their mind when they read that headline they go, "Oh, I know exactly who you are, I know what you do, I know what problems you solve, and I know you're the person that can help me." So if it feels like they're reading a list of keywords, they're going to hop over to one of your competitors even if they look at your profile at all, right? Your job is to hook them with the headline and pull them through the rest of your profile. So, for those of you in the digital creator space, like me, who create sales pages, webinars, opt ins, trying to get people's email addresses, you know exactly what I mean here. You put a great promise at the top. So, there is a headline. It is bold, it is bright, it is beautiful. You're trying to pull people in, all with the intention of getting them to scroll through your page and opt in, right? So you want to think of your headline on LinkedIn as that big, bold promise at the top of your profile. You want to grab them there and keep them reading through the profile. So that's really the key in this area. And following up on that idea of the headline as your promise, what actually should go there? You're like, okay, Mindy, I get it. Okay, I shouldn't keyword stuff. That's not a good idea. I shouldn't make it boring because it's too long. Don't read. People want to know who I am and what I stand for. Okay, I get that. All right, so now I need to think about a headline and my promise. Okay, so let's talk about what this promise is. When someone lands on your profile for the very first time, they should instantly know who you are, what you do, how you help people, and what you actually deliver. If any of these elements are unclear, you're going to risk losing them. Think about it. When you go to somebody's profile, do you like a clear headline, or do you like that hazy headline where you're looking, you're like, they stuffed a bunch of words here, or maybe it looks really creative, but I have no idea what they actually do. So I don't know about you, but I love a good, clear headline. Sometimes it's not always the sexiest. This is not an ads campaign where we're trying to pull in consumers. This is about being clear. This is about speaking to your audience, making sure that they know who you are and what you do. So whether or not it resonates with me as a potential client or connection or follower is determined by the promise in that headline. So think of your headline as a promise. When you think of it that way, you're like, it actually reframes how we are thinking of our headlines and what should go there. As an expert in your field, there is something very specific that you do. You may have a ton of competitors, but you likely have a very different way of approaching the same problem. So, this is what you need to tease. This is what you need to get across in that headline. If you look just like everyone else, or you copy someone else's tagline, you're not going to generate the new opportunities you were hoping for on LinkedIn. This promise needs to be accurate, also needs to be crafted for your LinkedIn audience. So, what do I mean by that? I know a number of you have various offerings for different markets. So sometimes having a B2B and a B2C side of your business, or maybe on Instagram, you're really focused on reaching out to individuals. On LinkedIn, you may be targeting companies or stakeholders within those companies. So this headline that you have on LinkedIn should be geared towards your LinkedIn people. So don't just grab your Instagram bio and plop it onto LinkedIn. I've seen a lot of people do that too. I mean, that's a good place to get started. It's better to have something there than nothing. But more likely than not, your audience on LinkedIn is probably just going to be a tad bit more professional, even if they're the same people. If they're the same people and they're following you on Instagram and LinkedIn, they're going to expect to be in a different headspace. They're going to be looking at you through more of a professional lens when they are on LinkedIn. So you want to match your tone to the platform. You want to keep it professional on LinkedIn. Well, you still want to tease a little bit of your personality here. Shouldn't be completely boring. We're not looking for like a corporatized robot. We still want to connect with a human. So not too stuffy. All right, so if you haven't sat down to think deeply about your headline, it is high time that you do so as an expert. You're probably getting that point by now. So, too many experts just start talking. I feel like they're just talking about concepts and ideas that seem to be all over the place for their audience on their profile. It's like, okay, I'm a coach to executives. I work one on one. I also work with companies. I do these corporate trainings that are really awesome. Oh, and I have this trademarked program. You're confusing the heck out of your people. With your headline, it needs to be crystal clear. You're going to focus on your main audience, not everybody, not all the things that you do. So there is not a common thread. Oftentimes, the mistake that I see is that there's not this common thread weaving through the profile. Like it is very difficult, especially if you're a multi passionate person or you do a lot of things. You got to make it super clear in your headline what you do, who you help, how you help them, the results you generate. So, we're going to talk about each of these elements. As an expert, your job is to make whatever your area of expertise is as simple, straightforward, and streamlined as possible. That means people should be able to read just your LinkedIn headline without wondering what type of expert you are, what problems you solve, who your target market is, and how you can help them. If there's anything unclear about your headline and you make people think too hard about how to categorize you, you've already lost them. It's got to be crystal clear, crystal clear. Even when you think it should be more complex or you want to be seen as this multi passionate person, I get that. We're all humans, we all have lots of passions, but your headline is not the place to list all of them. So, as an expert on LinkedIn, you represent the one thing you want to be known for. We talked about this last week too with attracting the right people. The concept of the one thing, like what is that theme? What is that one thing you really want people to know that you are the expert in doing, in solving, in helping? You don't want to add a bunch of other seemingly unrelated themes to your headline. All right, I think you get the picture, right? So let's talk about the four elements that every LinkedIn headline should have. All right, so the first one you want to make sure you have is who you are. Okay, so when I'm talking about who you are, this is not your first name. We start with your job title here. So, what would people in your industry call you? This is not where you get super clever. I've seen some people come up with really clever job titles, and I think, that is incredibly clever, but does anyone know what that means? Does your target audience get that? If they do, like sometimes there are some insider terms where, yeah, your audience would totally get that. Nobody else would, but your audience would say, oh, I know exactly what they do. So you want to make sure it's understandable, not too creative, so it doesn't confuse your audience. Doesn't have to speak to anybody else, but your audience should understand what you are saying, what your title is. What do you want it to be? Are there certain keywords here that are critical for LinkedIn search? So I did mention that we don't want to stuff keywords here, but it is appropriate to use a common keyword. For example, like my profile is social selling strategist. That's pretty common. People understand what that is. It's not too clever. Some people may go, I don't really know what social selling is, but most of the people in my space understand, okay, it has something to do with social media selling, and she does this and she creates strategies. So it needs to be clear enough to get across what you do and also something that people might be searching for ideally. So this is the good place to use your keyword phrases. So some people are a bit more straightforward here. Others like to be a bit more creative to pique interest, figure out what works for you, what works for your audience. Sometimes you may have to test a couple of different ones to see which one actually sits well with you and resonates and feels most accurate. So don't be afraid to change things up. All right, so number two, whom you help. So this is usually a bit more straightforward because you should know who your target audience is. You want to be really specific here. I've had a lot of people that are afraid to be specific. A lot of my accelerators, they go through the program, they're like, Mindy, I don't want to exclude anyone because I actually help everybody. Or I help individual clients and I help corporate clients. And I think, okay, so let's pick one. Do you want to speak to individuals on LinkedIn or do you want to reach out to corporates? What is your messaging strategy? So, when you're thinking in terms of which audience to choose here, you want to be very specific, especially if you're getting ready to promote a new service, reach out for one to one conversations, launch a book, launch a product. You want your audience to realize that you are speaking directly to them. And this can always shift. So, for example, if you are trying to get corporate training gigs and you put in your profile that you work one on one with clients, they're going to look at your profile and go, I don't know. She's reaching out to me about a corporate gig or corporate training, and they have to dig through your profile to find that information. That's not good. You really want to make sure that whatever outreach you're doing on LinkedIn, if you're trying to connect one to one with people and you want to work with one to one clients and get into your DMs and work with individuals, then make sure that they understand that by looking at your headline and it doesn't look too corporate training stuffy, because then they may wonder, why are you reaching out to me? So you want to match your headline to your strategy for LinkedIn. What types of people do you want in your network? Which types of people are you trying to add right now? Call them out in your headline so they know you're speaking directly to them. Make sense? All right. So the third thing you want to have in your headline is how you help your target audience. So how you help them. You may need to think about this section a bit because how you help may change and evolve over time. I like to revisit mine about every 6 months or so because as an entrepreneur, as somebody that's in like the expert space, I am always changing. I'm changing my offerings. I'm kind of switching and honing what I really want to promote. Sometimes I'm launching. Sometimes I'm really working with one to one clients, and I don't want people to be distracted by my group stuff. So you want to think about what you're doing now, like in the now. Like, what are you doing for the next 3, 6 months? Or what you're planning to do moving forward. So, some of you may be in a transition. So, maybe what you're doing now is not exactly where you're headed. So, it's really about what you're doing now and where you're headed. That's what you want to put inside of your headline when you're talking about how you help people. So, this should be something current. This should not be something that you used to do and no longer do because you are going to confuse people. So, make sure it is something you are doing now. Even if you don't have a ton of experience, okay? So, for those of you who are navigating that pivot, it's okay. Focus on what you're doing now. Do not be deceitful, but you want to go where you're headed, not where you've been, unless the two are one and the same. If so, great. That's really simple. So choose powerful keywords here. So again, I know I said not to keyword stuff earlier, but you do want to choose keywords that make sense to people. So try not to look like everyone else. Just say it a little bit differently if you need to without losing clarity. And like I said, you may need a couple iterations of this until it feels just right. You're like, okay, the words actually flow, they kind of fit together. And sometimes getting somebody else's opinion, maybe asking a colleague, an accountability partner, or somebody that you know really well that knows you and knows your work, sometimes it's good to ask them just to get their eyes on it. Say, hey, can you just look at this and give me a little bit of feedback? That would be really helpful. So this may seem obvious, but as experts, it's really easy to also get sidetracked with trends and call those things out in the headline just because we're like, oh, it's a good buzzword. So don't get crazy on your buzzwords in your headline either, unless that's what you really do. And you're like, this actually turned into a buzzword. This is great. So don't do it just because you think it's going to grab people's attention, unless it's actually what you do. And really one of the main problems that you solve. So, because remember, the rest of your LinkedIn profile is going to reinforce everything that is in your headline. So your headline is kind of like you're thinking of your promise. This is my promise at the top of the page. Everything else in the profile needs to map back to that headline. So can you map stuff back to it? If not, you may want to rethink what you're putting in your headline. Okay. So the rest of your profile is actually going to talk about a specific methodology, your unique approach. Ideally, it's going to include examples or scenarios and results that you can point to that verify you're the expert that you showed in your headline. So keep that in mind. We're not going to get into those nitty gritty details of the rest of the profile today, but just know your headline is the promise. Everything else needs to map back to it. All right. And number 4, the final element of your LinkedIn profile headline, results that you generate. So if how you help them, like how you're helping people, what you do, already includes the results you generate, sometimes it's already insinuated, it's already mentioned there. You may not need to be too specific with the results you generate here. If and when it makes sense to call out these results, do it. Like, I love it when people say, this is what I do, and these are the results that I get. Because in my mind, I'm like, that's very clear. And if you're making that promise in your headline, you must be able to deliver on that, or you wouldn't be calling it out. So that is something to consider when you are being very clear with the results you generate. For example, if you have an offer that gets people results in 30 days or 90 days, or does something really spectacular, and it's not that gimmicky feeling, like don't go for gimmicky here, you might want to mention it. So kind of take that into consideration. If there is something that you do and you have really outstanding results, play with a few iterations to figure out how you can get that across in your headline. All right, so there you have it. Let's recap what you need to get clear on to determine what goes into your LinkedIn profile headline. So first, who you are. This is your job title. This is what you call yourself. This is something that people would recognize and understand. Oh, this is who you are and what you do. Then it is whom you help. So your target audience. And this is your target audience for LinkedIn, not necessarily the same target audiences for your other social channels, other online presence. So be very clear about whom you help. The third thing is how you help them. So this is kind of like your secret sauce. What do you actually do? Give it a little bit of a description here. This is probably going to take up most of your headline is how you help people and then the results that you generate. So what do you help them achieve? What is that? Fill in the blank there, and you will hook people with those four elements. So, what additional questions do you have about nailing your LinkedIn profile headline? I know I didn't go into any examples and like do some screen sharing today, but if you want to see some really great headlines, DM me because I have a lot of good examples if you want to see what this looks like in practice. And DM me or leave a comment below. I'm happy to share what this looks like in real life. Leave your comments below, shoot me a private message. All right. I love interacting with you and just hearing from you what's working, what's not working, and where I can be of help. So, if you are ready to get started with LinkedIn and take the next step to optimize your profile once and for all, so you can start growing your network on the regular or land that next opportunity, join me inside the LinkedIn Accelerator program. We are kicking off in early April. I'm really excited about this next cohort. We work inside a small group for 1 week to dial in your profile. So we take it from start to finish. So by the end of the week, you know exactly everything that should go in your profile. You have all the fill in the blank templates, and we do it together. So it makes it way more fun. You get lots of question and answer time, and it's a blast. And you make really good connections with others in the cohort. So hop on that wait list. Hop on that wait list because I want to see you inside. And I will see you next week on Mondays with Mindy. Feel free to leave any questions again or comments below, and my inbox is open if you want to message me directly. Have a beautiful rest of the week. Mahalo.